Welcome to Mornings with Me. I got my tepid tea in my MoMA mug again. It's actually cooler, so I don't really need the fan right now anyway. So today I want to talk about Dickens, and I'm a huge Dickens fan. And what this brings up, or why I'm talking about this, is my parents found a whole bunch of classics illustrated from the late 1940s, original printing. I actually discovered this one was obviously a reprint, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Anyway, like a dozen of them, and two of them were Charles Dickens, and I'm a huge Dickens fan. It's one of my favorite authors. I think my ranking right now is Dostoevsky, then Dickens, and then Jane Austen. Anyway, so today is about Dickens, but not about Oliver Twist, which is a book I loathe. In the blog post that will accompany this video, and just follow the link, you will see why I hate the book. That said, I will read the Classics Illustrated because I already paged through it really quickly, and the stuff that I really objected to, they judiciously edit out. But the reason why I know these are reprints, it says that this number is from July 1945. But at the end of every issue are 3 pages. One's always like something about the author, and then there's 2 other things that may or may not be related to the novel. And the very last page, A Leader of His People, is about Chaim Weizmann and the founding of the State of Israel. Let's just go to the last paragraph. On May 14th, 1948, British rule ended. So happy 70th birthday, Israel, but obviously this is a reprint. These old ones, you know, art's not great. It's kind of like the old comics stuff. But you know, this is a great way to get kids interested in literature, and even adults. So if this is what it takes to get you to read Dickens, you know, try it out. But the real reason you like Dickens, or I like Dickens, this is what got it started. Not Classics Illustrated, but the actual novel. David Copperfield. So just quick story. When I was a kid, just like everybody else, I was forced to read Dickens for school. And one of the books was David Copperfield, and another one was Great Expectations. And I really just did not like either book. I found out later David Copperfield's actually the longest of all of Dickens' novels. So I do like long books, though, so that's not really the reason I hated it. I just didn't get it. The plots seemed ridiculous to me, and they are a bit absurd, some of them. But more specifically, it just reminded me of soap operas. So, for example, not David Copperfield, but Great Expectations. I had skipped over 100 pages in the middle and just predicted what was going to happen in the plot. And you can do that with a lot of Dickens novels. I may spoil you with something, but you know, these are over 150 years old. If you get spoiled with a novel that old, it's your own fault. You haven't read it yet. Anyway, so part of the reason I got a soap opera feel from the novels is they were. In that they were originally produced in serial form. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't plan out the plots in advance. Well, okay, the first few books, he didn't really plan the plots out in advance. It was more the later books where that was really going on. That said, these would come out in like 3 chapters at a time, and to get you to keep on reading, there'd be a semi kind of plottish cliffhanger at the end of that 3rd chapter, so that you would buy the next one. And so that's why it reminded me of soap operas, because if you're used to watching those kinds of series, you know they still have a plot hook at the end of the episode so that you will watch the next episode. And I grew up watching Days of Our Lives with my mom. Anyway, so as a kid, I wasn't impressed. But as an adult, so I was at NYU, none of my friends were there. This was after college, so I'm going to grad school. And I was getting books out of the NYU library because reading was and is still my primary way of entertaining myself. And I come across essentially what's this scene down here. Don't try to read it. It's when David is just kind of starting out his life in London, and he's got a couple of school chums with him, and they have a rip-roaring time, get stinking drunk, and go to the opera, at which point he runs into his old friend Agnes and thoroughly embarrasses himself. So having just had an experience like that in grad school, my first kind of bender, I really could see, I could understand the book a little better from a human standpoint. What I found compelling later on in terms of characters I really like, there's one character I really identify with, and that's Aunt Betsy Trotwood. So what we see here is David Copperfield as a kid seeing what Aunt Betsy's up to. She hates donkeys on the hill. And this is what I tell you, no donkeys on my hill. Thank you very much. Anyway, they don't have it in this Classics Illustrated version, but the reason I really love David Copperfield now is it gives me my favorite quote, and it's the Macabre principle. That's Mr. Macabre there with a young David Copperfield, trying to kind of make him look a little bit like W.C. Fields, who did play Macabre in one movie version, but not quite that thin. So here's the Macabre principle. Here we go. I'm reading it. Annual income, £20. Annual expenditure, £19, 19 and 6. Result, happiness. Annual income, £20. Annual expenditure, £20, ought and 6. Result, misery. I seriously just would want to stamp that on the forehead of every frickin' politician. If only they lived by the Macabre principle. Of course, the problem is Macabre never quite made his sums add up. Anyway, see you next week.